design.
So you're talking about Raptor engine. What makes it amazing? What are the different aspects of it that make it like? What are you the most excited about if the whole thing works in terms of efficiency, all those kinds of things?
Well, the Raptor is a full flow
like that, or is that too much?
Exactly. So, like another like a good example, I think, of thinking about things in the limit is if you take any any product, any machine or whatever, like take a rocket or whatever, and say, if you look at the raw materials in the rocket, so you're going to have like, aluminum, steel, titanium, Inconel, specialty alloys, copper, and you say, what's the weight of the constituent elements of each of these elements, and what is their raw material value? And that sets the asymptote. I mean, I think if you are really good at manufacturing, you can basically at high volume, you can basically make anything for a cost that asymptotically approaches the raw material value of the constituents plus any intellectual property that you need to license.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
But it's hard. It's not like that's a very hard thing to do, but it is possible for anything. Anything in volume can be made like I said.
I mean, it sounds it's almost like Rick and Morty absurd until you start to really think about it, and you really should think about it in this way, because everything else is kind of if you think you might.
So I'm not saying that it's like the ideal system for a currency, but I think it actually is just fundamentally better than anything else I've seen, just by accident. So
I like how you said.
Do that. Humanity has obviously a lot of issues, and people at times do bad things, but despite all that, I love humanity, and I think we should make sure we do everything we can to have a good future and an exciting future, and one where that maximizes the happiness of the people.
Let me ask about Crew Dragon Demo 2, Age of Space Exploration.
Yeah, I mean, during the launches itself, so I mean, the thing I think maybe some people know, but a lot of people don't know, is like I'm actually the chief engineer of SpaceX, so the risks. I mean, it's important to think of these things and just think of things as like probabilities, not certainties. There's a certain probability that something bad will happen on Earth. I think most likely the future will be good. But there's like, let's say for argument's sake, those things are expensive. We need them back. I'd like to come back and do another trip.
I mean, do you think about the terraforming aspect, like actually building? Are you so focused right now on the spaceships part that's so critical to get to Mars?
We absolutely, if you can't get there, nothing else matters. Missing, then it still doesn't count. It's like, if you're on a long sea voyage and you've got everything except vitamin C, it's only a matter of time, you're going to die. So we got to get a Mars city to. And questioning their existence, just like if we've got a function for creating rules and regulations, because rules and regulations you can also think of as like they're like software or lines of code for operating civilization. That's the rules and regulations. So it's not like we shouldn't sort of keep it up there, And I actually also say like, and these are just, I don't know, recommendations or thoughts, and ultimately it will be up to the people on Mars to decide. But I think you don't understand smart contracts.
That's a good line.
I mean, my general approach to any kind of like deal or whatever is just make sure there's clarity of understanding. That's the most important thing. Right. So Mars I don't know if Mars would have a cryptocurrency as a thing, but probably seems likely. But it would be some kind of localized thing on Mars.
And you let the people decide.
Yeah. Like, what's the bandwidth total bit rate? What is the latency, jitter, packet drop? Errors in the network communication. Just think of money like that, basically. I think that's probably the right way to think of it.
So both policy in terms of with inflation and actual like technological cobalt, like cryptocurrency takes us into the 21st century in terms of the actual systems that allow you to do the transaction, to store wealth, all those kinds of things.
Like I said, just think of money as information. People often will think of money as by vector space, I mean like you've got cars and humans and lane lines and curves and traffic lights and that kind of thing. Once you have an accurate space of only relevant objects, and I think like you can sort of look inside your brain, or at least I can, like when you drive down the road and try to think about what your brain is actually doing consciously. And it's
compress it even further into things like concepts. So it's like it goes beyond, the human mind seems to go sometimes beyond vector space to sort of space of concepts, to where you'll see a thing. It's no longer represented spatially somehow. It's almost like a concept that you should be aware of. Like if this is a school zone, you'll remember that as a concept, which is a weird thing to represent. But perhaps for driving, you don't need to fully represent those things, or maybe you get those kind of indirectly.
You need to like establish vector space and then actually have predictions for those vector spaces. So like like if some very talented software engineers at Tesla that at a very foundational level to improve the efficiency of compute and how we use the trip accelerators, which are basically doing matrix math, dot products, like a bazillion dot products. And it's like what are neural nets? It's like compute wise, like 99% dot products. So and
you want to achieve as many high frame rates, like a video game. You want full resolution,
150 milliseconds stale. Okay. Like so, for 150 for argument's sake, 150 milliseconds from photon second camera to where you can measure a change in the acceleration of the vehicle. So
processing an image.
Yes. Yeah. It's like because we've got 8 cameras and then there's roughly 1.5 milliseconds or so, maybe 1.6 milliseconds of latency for each camera, and so going to just basically bypassing the image processor gets us back 13 milliseconds of latency, which is important. And we track latency all the way from much faster than a human. I mean, I think over time the autopilot full self-driving will be capable of maneuvers that are far more than what like James Bond could do in like the best movie type of thing.
That's exactly what I was imagining in my mind.
These things do. I mean, if you like, there's a lot of human history, but most of it is actually people just getting on with their lives. And it's not like human history is just nonstop war and disaster. Those are actually just those are intimate. Major happened doesn't get written about much, but that's most people just like farming and kind of like living their life. Being a villager somewhere. And every now and again, there's a war, and I think so. Strong history in spaceflight. Like some of the most advanced and impressive things in history were done, by the Soviet Union So one cannot help mayo and ketchup and mustard. It's like epic.
Yeah, but I'm sure they've had bread and meat separately for a long time, and it was kind of a burger on the same plate, but somebody who actually combined them into the same thing, and they could bite it and hold it, makes it
relatively good grade, not in absolute terms, but compared to what everyone else was doing, they were not the worst. Like I said, you got to look at these things in the context of the history at the time, and say what were the alternatives, and what are you comparing it against?
to understand, is to learn.
Yeah, just say like, okay, how many people have actually died from nuclear accidents? It's like practically nothing. And say how many people have died from, coal plants, and it's a very big number. Mm-hmm. So, like, obviously, we should not be ions or particles. Then, like, then I don't know what do you mean photons, particles? Do you mean, let's say photons? What frequency or wavelength? And they're like, no, I have no idea.
I thought we found them.
Yeah, the British Museum it's pretty great. I mean, admittedly, Britain did take these historical artifacts from all around the world and put them in London, but it's not like people can't go see them. So it is a convenient place to see these ancient artifacts is London for a large segment of the world. So I think on balance, the British Museum is a net good. Although I'm sure a lot of countries would argue about that.
Yeah.
It's like you want to make these historical artifacts accessible to as many people as possible. And the British Museum, I think, does a good job of that.
Even if there's a darker aspect to like the history of empire in general, whatever the empire is, however things were done, it is the history that happened. You can't sort of erase that history, unfortunately. You could just become better in the future. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, how are we going to pass moral judgment on these things? Like, it's like and just to show, like, look, this is how, like, the danger is so much overplayed compared to what it really is, that I actually flew to Fukushima, and I donated a solar power system for a water treatment plant, and I made a point of eating locally grown vegetables on TV in Fukushima. Like, I'm still alive. Okay. Basically, like Tesla, I think, has the most advanced real world AI for interacting with the real world, which we've developed as a function of to make self-driving work. And so, along with custom hardware and like a lot of hardcore low levels, and really just I mean, I think if you say like extrapolate to many years in the future, it's like I think work will become optional. So, like, there's a lot of jobs that put it in a robot with arms and legs, and actuators. Like the two like hard things are, like, you basically need to have the robot be intelligent enough to interact in a sensible way with the environment. So you need real world AI, good companion. And it could, you develop like a personality over time that is like unique. Like, it's not like they're just all the robots are the same. So the interventions, per million miles has been dropping dramatically. At some point, and that trend looks like it happens next year, is the probability of an accident on FSD is less than that of the average human, and then significantly less than that of the average human. then of course then there's going to be a case of, okay, well, we now have to prove this to regulators and prove it to, and we want a standard that is not just equivalent to a human, but much better than the average human. I think it's got to be at least 2 or 3 times higher safety than a human. So 2 or 3 times lower probability of injury than a human. Before we would actually say, like, okay, it's okay to go. It's not going to be equivalent. It's got to be much better. Like one of the big changes will be, like right now, the neural nets will deliver a giant bag of points to the C++ or C and C++ code.
Yeah.
We call it the giant bag of point vectors. So that the neural net is outputting much less data. It's outputting this is a lane line, this is a curb, this is drivable space, this is a car, this is a pedestrian or a cyclist or something like that. It's outputting.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll actually need to incorporate sound as well, because you need to like listen for ambulance sirens, right, or fire trucks, or if somebody like yelling at you or something. I don't know. Just there's a little bit of audio that needs to be incorporated as well.
Do you need a quick bathroom break?
Yeah, it's the easy part.
Yeah.
Not going to the moon is the hard part.
It's the hard part.
And there's a lot of like hardcore engineering that's got to get done at the hardware and software level. Like I said, optimizing the C compiler and just cutting out latency everywhere. Like this is, if we don't do this, this is. If you sort of say, like, when I see people like perhaps including some very smart people kind of taking an attitude of like doing things that seem like morally questionable, it's often because they have at a base sort of axiomatic level a zero-sum mindset. Forever. But I would like to know that we're on a path to understanding the nature of the universe and the meaning of life and what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. And so if we expand the scope and scale of humanity, and
I mean, there's it's because we've talked about so many inspiring things, like be useful in the world, sort of like solve problems, alleviate suffering, but it seems like connection between humans is a source, it's a source of joy, it's a source of meaning, and that's what love is, friendship, love.